I'm Silas Allen, and we're here with Pat McFerron from the polling firm Cole Hargrave Snodgrass and Associates to talk about a poll that his firm recently conducted in conjunction with the Oklahoman. Pat, how are you?
Oh, doing great. Thanks for having me over today.
Okay. I noticed in the poll on the Republican side, it looked like Ben Carson came out on top. Is that right?
Yes, Ben Carson did top out at 25%. Trump was at 19%. No other candidate exceeded 10%. The big thing is there's still a huge group of Republican voters that are undecided in this race.
What do those results tell you?
Well, I think that it's still very early on in the process for most people. We do see that Carson has solidified some support among more evangelical, moral issue voters. His numbers bump up a little bit among those who vote the most often in Republican primaries. But Trump has a broader support, and the real question is, does he bring new people into the process? To me, what's fascinating is that the elected leaders, the people that currently hold political positions, really aren't scoring very well. And as popular as George W. Bush was in the state, to see Jeb Bush at 3%, I think is pretty stunning.
I understand there were some urban-rural dynamics at play between Trump and Carson as well. Is that right?
A little bit, in that we saw that Carson does very well in the rural parts of the state, Trump more so in the urban. Again, is he able to reach the younger voters more for Trump? They tend to be centered more in the urban areas, and to see if they actually come out and participate.
Okay. Tell me about the Democratic side.
The Democrat side is pretty interesting. We've got Clinton ahead at this point. She has a 9-point lead over Bernie Sanders, but the fact that there's 46% of Democrats undecided shows that they're not enamored with any of these candidates at all. I will tell you, I think that when you look at the internals, some of the support Bernie Sanders has, I think is based on name recognition and not positions. For example, those who attend church frequently are more likely to support Sanders than Clinton. So I think he still has in this state those people that are just against Hillary Clinton because they see Hillary Clinton as too liberal. Not because not liberal enough as we see in some other states. So quite frankly, there's a tremendous opportunity if somebody just wants to get their name out there to be a conservative Democrat in a Republican primary in Oklahoma. You might remember 4 years ago, Barack Obama failed to get 50% in the Democrat primary here during his re-election campaign. And that same element's still here.
Okay.
So you also asked a couple questions about the death penalty, which has of course been a pretty big topic here in Oklahoma and excuse me, across the nation. So what did your poll find? I understand you asked both about support for the death penalty and also for the current moratorium. Correct,
and there is a difference there. We still have 67%, 2/3 of Oklahomans supporting the death penalty, 25% opposing. As your story in the paper showed today, I mean that opposition is increasing. And looks like it's moving in line with where the rest of the nation is. But still, it's still 2/3, 67%, overwhelming number supporting it. 49% say they strongly support the death penalty. That's real intensity, and that intensity, more than triples those who strongly oppose it. But there is a real difference. When you ask about the moratorium, we have a majority supporting the moratorium on the death penalty in Oklahoma, which is pretty striking when you consider how many people support the death penalty overall. What's, to me, the most interesting facet about that is the real difference in support of the moratorium in the 2 major media markets versus the other 6 we have, which tells me that the news coverage of the reasons for the moratorium probably much stronger in Tulsa and Oklahoma City media markets than in the Lawton, Fort Smith. People don't realize that we actually have Shreveport media market reaches into McCurtain County, the Joplin media markets, where they don't cover the Oklahoma politics as much and government as much.
You mentioned that opposition. It's higher now nationally than it's been in since 1972 when the Supreme Court found it unconstitutional. But even though opposition here seems really high compared to the national numbers, it also seems like we're following those same national trends. We're just maybe a decade behind.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that way. I hate to get into kind of, sometimes behind's used pejorative. Right. So I'd say, we have a different view. And so I actually think it goes back to our the populist mentality we have in Oklahoma, which has that pioneer individual responsibility type of aspect. And so I don't know if it's as our population changes some, yes, we'll start to look and mirror more what happens nationally. So I do think there's something to be said there. We're seeing it on other issues as well.
You also polled voters on the question of beer and wine in grocery stores, is that right?
That's correct. And there we're seeing numbers change pretty dramatically as well. We are north of 60% in support of beer and wine in grocery stores, single strength beer and wine in grocery stores. 62% favor, 30% oppose. Single strength beer being stronger than 3.2%. Correct. Now, our question didn't go into a lot of explanation on that, but I've polled this numerous times, and we've seen it change from 54% in just 2013 to north of 62% today. There's a lot of discussion about this. And it's from a social science researcher side, it's pretty fascinating because we have really stark lines on both income and age. As age increases, support decreases. Even those, now for the first time, those over 75 years of age are 51% support. And that's the first time that we've had that group be a majority supporter in all of the times I've surveyed this question.
Well, that would suggest it's probably going to continue that trend.
This trend will continue, and so because again, when you get to those under 45, you're north of 80% support. And you also mentioned that this is not a partisan issue. No, it's not. 60% of Republicans support this change, 63% of Democrats. It does go higher among the small sample size of independents, but still, anytime you've got both members of both major parties over 60% support, at 2-to-1 support, because there will be some that are undecided. So I think the Republicans at 60 support, 31 oppose, Democrats 63-29. It tells you that things are getting ready to change. The public's really wanting this to happen. Okay. And finally, you polled Oklahomans on another question that's close to the hearts of a lot of Oklahoman readers, support for Kevin Durant. Yeah, that's right. I'm a big Thunder fan. Season's getting ready to start, so I wanted to throw something in there to show that Oklahomans like Kevin Durant. 63% positive, only 3% negative. I guess there are some Mavs fans here, but 44 strongly favorable. I mean, those are stratospheric numbers for any kind of popular figure, and very encouraged by it. I did see one of the reasons that sparked me to do this. I saw some polling done in Ohio this last summer, and just want Kevin Durant to know you are more popular in Oklahoma than LeBron James is in Ohio, and we're going to keep it that way. And Thunder up.